Hello, my name is Claire Langton Yanowitz, and I'm an attorney at the Yanowitz Law Firm. And today I'm going to talk to you about how a power of attorney and healthcare directive can protect you. First, I'm going to talk about what is a power of attorney. It's a legal document that nominates who can act on your behalf to handle your legal, property, and financial affairs. They're commonly used when people become incapacitated. What happens if you don't have a power of attorney? Let's say one day you get into an accident and you become disabled and do not have capacity anymore. Well, if you don't have a power of attorney, a court is going to have to be petitioned, and a conservator will be appointed by the court. And a conservator is given the roles of managing your financial affairs. The reason why this is not a good direction to go, why it's so much better to have a power of attorney, is it can be very time consumptive to get a conservator appointed. It can be expensive. So ultimately, it can create a much greater burden for your family and your loved ones having to go this route as opposed to just having a power of attorney in place that you've signed during your lifetime. So, what is a healthcare directive? A healthcare directive nominates someone to make your medical decisions in the event you are not able. If you become incapacitated and you're not able to make your own medical decisions and you don't have a healthcare directive, then a court has to appoint a guardian on your behalf. And again, this process is expensive, can take a lot of time, and also, very importantly, you don't get to pick who's acting on your behalf. In a healthcare directive, the agents can decide to administer care to you. They can decide to refuse care. They can decide where you get care, what hospital is going to provide you care. So they can make some very important decisions on your behalf. It's really important that every adult has a power of attorney and healthcare directives, because no one ever knows when they're going to become incapacitated. And so it's important to have a plan in place on who can act for you. Another important reason why it's good to have these documents in place is you're able to pick who's going to act on your behalf. Otherwise, you're stuck with a court picking who's going to be acting on your behalf. Something that is important for adults to consider for young adult children is that once your child is grown up, they're over 18, you no longer have access to their medical records. You couldn't just access their bank account and help them pay bills if something were to happen to them. So we encourage people to have a healthcare directive, even if they're 18 or 19 and they don't have a whole lot of assets. It can still be very important, because if something happened to them, it can allow their parents to step in and help take care of things. So here is a couple of tips with powers of attorney and healthcare directives. If you already have these documents, it's important to look at them every couple of years for a couple of reasons. First, you want to make sure that the people you've listed in the documents are still the people you want to list. So sometimes people's decisions change over time on who they would want to act on their behalf. Second, when you look over your documents, you want to make sure that the addresses and phone numbers for the people listed in these documents are up to date. So if you were, for example, found at an accident scene and someone found your healthcare directive, the phone number in the healthcare directive would be correct. And so they would be able to, reach your agent, as opposed to having an old number that is no longer in use. If you're going to have major surgery, it can be a good idea to bring along the healthcare directive on the day of your surgery so that you make sure that the medical providers have it. Also, when clients sign this document at our firm, we will fax it to their medical provider, including Mayo or Olmsted Medical Center. For a healthcare directive, it's a good idea to put a copy of this document in the glove compartment of your car, so that if you were found at an accident scene, somebody would hopefully check there and know who to call on your behalf. For a power of attorney, it is helpful to share with the people listed in that document where your assets are. So you don't necessarily have to share it with them now, but you should come up with some sort of way to share it with them in the event you're incapacitated, so that they know where to look so that they can take over managing those assets. And then finally, with a healthcare directive, it's a good idea to think about what sorts of decisions you would want made in different situations. So, a kind of end of life decision. You want to be kept on a ventilator. In what circumstances would you want to be resuscitated? That sort of thing. So that if it were to come to that, the person named in the healthcare directive could step into your shoes and make a decision that's consistent with your wishes. At the Yanowitz Law Firm, we have drafted many, many powers of attorney and healthcare directives, and we think it's really important that all adults have these documents.